Yep, we managed to get our hands on a pair of the very much hyped Nike Ultrafly trail running shoe, and this is actually their first ever carbon plated trail shoe, and it actually seems like this shoe has been in sort of development for ages now, and I can remember seeing the first sort of prototypes of this shoe way back in December last year on Instagram and YouTube. So finally it has hit the shelves, and like I say, we've bagged a pair. Now, over the years, I've definitely learned to take the Nike trail hype with a massive pinch of salt, because I have been quite disappointed with some of their trail running products in the past. However, this Go Faster carbon plated trail shoe is a little bit different from the rest, and the main reason being is because we have this little yellow logo on the outsole, which has got me very excited, because this means finally we've got some sticky rubber on the bottom of a Nike trail shoe in the form of Vibram Mega Grip light base. Now, we're a little bit pushed for time today, so I'm going to run you through quickly a few facts and figures about the shoe. We're going to break down this new construction in a little bit more detail, and then we are taking the Ultraflys out for their first run. Welcome back, folks. Hope you are all fit and well out there, and thanks for joining us for another First Impressions video. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. Now, just recently I have seen a few first impressions pop up on the Nike Ultrafly. I think one of them ran the shoe on a treadmill and the other one took it for a road run around their hometown, which is all a little bit weird because this is a trail running shoe, but don't worry, we don't do that sort of thing on this channel. We always want to make sure before we do a first impressions or a full review that we've tested out the shoes properly. So we're going to be heading out today and hitting the beautiful Hail Towers for today's run, and we are bringing you guys along with us. So first up, let's run you through a few facts and figures, and I had to fork out £230 of my hard-earned cash for this pair of carbon plated running shoes. So it's definitely not an affordable trail running option, that's for sure. And I actually think it's the most expensive trail running shoe that I've ever bought. Weight-wise, in a UK 9.5, they weigh in at 305 grams, so a fair bit heavier than I was expecting, if I'm honest. And they run off an 8.5mm heel offset. When it comes down to the sizing, I popped them on just to check them, and I would say the Ultrafly is true to size, and this UK 9.5 fits me really well. And I was actually surprised with the amount of width it's got in the toe box, so loads of wiggle room there, and I reckon it's probably the widest fitting Nike shoe I've ever put on. When it comes down to the upper construction, Nike have opted to use vaporweave fabric, so very similar to what they use on some of their performance road running shoes. However, this variant of the fabric does feel a little bit more robust. There's definitely a lot more padding around the ankle collar, in the heel, and in that gusseted tongue. So I'd say there's just a bit more substance to the whole upper construction when you compare it to, say, a Vaporfly or an Alphafly, two of Nike's sort of carbon plated performance road shoes. We've got a traditional lacing system with some sort of reinforcement around those eyelets just for a bit of extra durability, and we've also got some overlays, so one on the lateral side with the form of the Nike swoosh, and we've got one on the medial side, the Nike Trail logo, in this sort of black material. I'm not sure what they've used, but it looks like it could be really thin sheets of carbon fibre. I don't think it is that, but it really does look and feel like it is. Also, unfortunately, we haven't got any added protection in the toe in the shape of a toe bumper, so the upper is very, very soft there, which for a performance trail running shoe is a bit of a shame. So moving down to the midsole construction, and this is where I start to get all excited about the Ultraflys, because we clearly have a full ZoomX foam midsole. So this is the same Pebax based compound that they use in their performance road running shoes. However, this time round it is a little bit different. So Nike have chosen to wrap that soft foam in this fabric so that it's not sort of exposed to the harsh realities of trail running. I personally think not only is that going to help when it comes to durability of that midsole, but I also think it should help with underfoot stability when we're running on sort of uneven or technical trails. I think it really does show that there's quite a lot of testing and development gone into the Ultrafly, but it also highlights that maybe Nike are finally taking their trail running department a bit more seriously. And lastly, I've already mentioned it, but we've got Vibram Mega Grip light-based rubber on the outsole. Now, if you've ever run in a trail running shoe with Vibram Mega Grip on the bottom, then you'll know all about its great sticky properties when it comes to running on rocky or wet rocky trails, and you always feel very confident in your footing, which is definitely a good thing because this has always been a very big issue when it comes to Nike trail running shoes. I couldn't find any information on the lug depth, so I grabbed out the Run4Adventure ruler, gave it a quick measure, and it looks like the lugs are no deeper than 3 mil, which I've got to be honest, is a little bit disappointing. We've got this great rubber compound, but you also need some lug depth there to handle sort of muddier conditions, and I think a 4.5 or a 5 mil lug would have been a better option, and it would have made the Ultrafly a much more versatile shoe, a sort of all year round trail running shoe, especially here in the UK. So I really do think they're going to struggle in muddy conditions, but it is still great to see Vibram rubber on the outsole. So there it is, folks, the very much anticipated Nike Ultrafly, their first carbon plated trail running shoe. Now, take a good close look at them. I think they look great in this white, black and bright orange colorway, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to stay that colour for long, and they probably won't look like this when we get back from today's run and give you guys a conclusion. So I think now's the time you've all been waiting for. We're going to get them on our feet, get them laced up, we're going to get out on the stunning Hale Towers and give the Ultraflys their first run. Okie dokie, so we are 3.5 miles into the run already. The plan for tonight's run is just a nice steady 7 miles across the Towers. I'm filming this on a Saturday. Tomorrow we've got our last long run plan, myself and Liga, before we go out and run the round the rock race. So just taking it nice and chilled tonight, saving my legs for tomorrow. As I thought back at the house, when I tried them on to check the size, they're definitely true to size. This UK 9.5 is fitting perfectly on length, and definitely a lot of wiggle room in that toe box, but it is quite shallow in the toe box as well. I can feel my big toe sort of rubbing on the fabric on the toe box there. It's nice and soft. I don't think it's going to cause me any issues, but if you did have a bit of depth to your foot, then you might struggle with that toe box being so shallow. It's giving me good lockdown and hold around the midfoot, and I feel really well held in the heel. So the fit of the shoe is pretty good, apart from the shallow toe box. The only thing I have experienced on the first couple of miles is my feet did go a little bit numb, sort of on the forefoot. I've had that with shoes before on the first run when they're quite stiff, and obviously this has got a stiff, rigid carbon plate in it. So for them first couple of miles, I did sort of have tingly, numb feet, but seems to have worn off now. So maybe the shoe just needed a couple of miles to bed in a little bit. But like I say, 3.5 miles done. Let's crack on, get this run done. Glad to say we're 4.5 miles in now, and that tingly numb feeling has completely gone. Always a bit of a worry when you take a shoe out for the first time and that happens. This is definitely not the first time it's happened to me, but I'm glad it's settled down. Okay, so it's going to be a nice steady 8 miles by the time we get home, so an extra mile thrown in for good measure. We've had a big mix of terrain, so tarmac, gravelly trails, compact trails, rocky trails, loose sand and a bit of grass to deal with. So we're giving the shoe a thorough testing out on its first run. the upper has felt really plush, really well fitted, but I would say there is a few pros and cons when it comes to that carbon plated midsole construction. So let's get back to the studio and break down the first run in the Ultrafly from Nike in a bit more detail. Okay, so all sorted after my 8-mile run in this very much hyped trail shoe from Nike. I've got to say, after that first initial sort of 2 miles had been run and my feet started to sort of settle down and adjust to being in a new shoe that is obviously quite stiff because we got that carbon plate worked into the midsole, the run actually went pretty good. But I've got to say it, these did leave me a little bit underwhelmed. So let's go into all the ups and the downs of my first run in Nike's new Ultrafly. Firstly, like a lot of Nike shoes, the upper fits my foot shape really well. So the all important sort of midfoot lockdown was great. I felt very secure, good hold in the heel, and even though that gusseted tongue isn't heavily padded, just right for me. So sits really nice and comfortable across the top of my foot. And like I mentioned, a nice wide toe box, so lots of splay room for my toes on impact, and that actually felt really comfortable. The only thing I did mention is the toe box does come down very shallow towards the tip there, and this isn't the first Nike shoe I've run in with that shallow toe box. Now, it is very soft in the toe, so I don't think that's going to cause me any issues. So all in all, I'm happy with how the upper performed, although I definitely would like maybe a bit more volume, a bit more depth in the toe box. However, there is a few things I'm not so sure about when it comes to midsole performance. Now, firstly, if you've ever run in any of Nike's sort of performance carbon plate road shoes, say the Vaporfly or the Alphaflys, then you'll know that ZoomX compound normally feels super soft, really comfortable, but also high energy return. You know, it feels very bouncy while you're running along. And I have to say it, the ZoomX in the Ultraflys does feel quite a bit firmer. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but it definitely felt quite a bit firmer out there on today's run. And I actually think it comes down to where Nike have covered the ZoomX with this material to offer a bit more stability and protection to the soft foam. It has taken away a bit of that sort of exciting, responsive feel that we've come to expect from the brilliant ZoomX compound. Now, the Ultrafly did feel pretty stable out there when I was running on the uneven stuff, so I think that fabric covering on the ZoomX is actually doing its job. Obviously, we've got a deep stack of foam under our foot, and we've got that stiff carbon plate worked into the midsole. So I didn't get a great deal of sort of ground feel or connection, and funnily enough, that's what happens when you stick a rigid carbon plate in a trail running shoe. And this is why I'm not fully convinced that we need carbon plates when we're out on the trails. I had a couple of sections of road to run and the Ultrafly soaked it up with ease. That ZoomX compound felt very comfortable, and the carbon plate felt like it was giving me a nice bit of propulsion as I towed off. This is a trail shoe that have no issues running longer sections of tarmac, and I think it'd actually be quite enjoyable to do in them. The only thing I would say is it's quite a noisy shoe on the road. So I was running along there and it did sound quite loud, and I wouldn't say I'm heavy on my feet. I tend to run off a sort of mid-foot, forefoot strike, and I thought I was quite light on my feet actually. But if I was in a road race and I had these on and I was trying to sneak up behind another runner to outsprint them at the finish line, they would definitely hear me coming in these. So I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe the midsole performance didn't live up to the hype, and it wasn't what I was expecting from a ZoomX carbon plated go faster trail shoe from the Nike brand. Now obviously I understand this is just our first 8-mile run in the shoes, and maybe it just needs a bit more time to bed in, but right now I actually prefer the feel of Saucony's carbon plate performance trail shoe, the Endorphin Edge. Definitely felt a lot lighter, more responsive, felt like that midsole was giving me a lot more energy return and pop, and it was just a more exciting experience to run in them. So it'll be interesting to see if the performance of that midsole improves over time. And that just leaves us with the all-important outsole. Now we know it's about time that Nike put some decent rubber on the outsoles of their trail shoe, and they've done that in the form of this Vibram Mega Grip light base. So we now know that this is going to perform really well on rocky or wet rocky trails and give us loads of confidence in our footing. What I don't understand is why they've gone for such a shallow lug depth. Now obviously here in the UK, when you associate wet rocks and wet conditions, we've also got mud to deal with, and this shallow lug is just not going to handle it. You're going to be slipping and sliding all over the place. So it's like Nike have taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Surely a deeper lug pattern would have been a better idea. Vibram actually do some great outsoles with 5mm chunky lug patterns like we got on the Agility Peak 5 from Merrell that we just tested, or the lug pattern on the Norda 001 or the 002. Again, both shoes will give you that sticky rubber but also handle muddy conditions, and surely that would have been a better idea for the Ultrafly. Okay, so wrapping up with a quick conclusion, and I've got to say it, I was a little bit disappointed with the new Ultrafly out there on its first run. You see, this is what happens when you overhype a shoe and you're expecting great things, and then the shoe doesn't live up to those expectations. It leaves you feeling a little bit flat, and that's kind of how I'm feeling now. You know, for a performance trail shoe, it just didn't feel that lively, that nimble, that responsive out there, and it wasn't that exciting to run in. And at £230, that's kind of what you want from a trail shoe. And I'm a massive fan of Nike's Vaporfly road shoes. I love lacing them up and going out for a run in them. And I was kind of hoping for the trail equivalent, and that's not really what I got out there on the first run. It actually felt more like a sort of bog standard trail running shoe. And like I say, with all the hype of it being a carbon plate performance shoe, I expected better. I've got my fingers crossed that over time, with more miles into it, it's going to spring to life, because it did feel a little bit better towards the end of today's run. But there you have it, folks, my initial thoughts on Nike's first ever carbon plated performance trail running shoe. Really hope you enjoyed the video, really hope you found it helpful. Now, if you went out, raided your piggy bank and handed over £230 for a pair of these, I would love to hear your thoughts on how they're running for you. So get in the comments below, let us know all about it. Don't forget, if you have enjoyed the video, to like, share, comment and subscribe, because it really is a big help to the channel. But for now, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, it really is appreciated. We'll be back here very, very soon. And as always, stay safe and keep on running. Okay, I just wanted to jump on at the end of the video. We've just been out, got absolutely soaked. I've got my towel. It is July, it is summer in the UK at the moment, isn't it? We got absolutely drenched out there. So myself and Liga have just done our last long run before we take on the Round the Rock race at the weekend. And I ran it in the Nike Ultraflys. So we did a nice steady 12 miles across the town. So I just wanted to jump on and give you guys an update, because I thought it'd be important to you. I've got to say it, the shoes did run better than on that first outing. I think the midsole felt like it was bedded in a bit more. Even the carbon plate felt a bit more flexible, so not as stiff on that first run. And I didn't have any of that numb, tingly feet. Don't get me wrong, you know, they didn't blow me away with their performance, but they're definitely getting better. So maybe it is a trail shoe that just needs to be bedded in a bit. I suppose the big question is, am I going to be lacing them up and using them in the ultra marathon at the weekend? Well, I guess you'll just have to wait and see.